Okay, so quick question to kick us off then, everyone. So, what if you could hand an AI a job on a Monday morning? Not a question, an actual job. Something like go refactor this code base or work through these earnings findings, draft me a first pass contract review. And it just kind of got on with it. Planned the approach, checked on its own progress, fixed its own mistakes, and it came back when it was done.
That used to be the bit where I'd say, lovely idea, John, but actually it comes apart after step three.
Yeah, no, right, and I guess, look, as of this week, that's the headline, okay? Anthropic's newest frontier model, Claude Fable 5, is available from this week in Microsoft AI Foundry, and it's built specifically for those long-running multi-stage workloads.
And that's the part I care about, right? It's not a lab demo. It's landing inside GitHub Copilot and the Foundry agent service, where real teams can actually put it to work.
100%. So that's the show for today. Welcome to AzBytes, everybody.
Good morning, good afternoon, happy evening, wherever you are. But let's set the table. So this show, AzBytes, is where you get into all things cloud and AI platform on Azure. I'm Ty, that's John, and we've pulled in Seema today because, well, she's fantastic and she knows her customers. She looks through the customer lens, and guess what? She's brilliant. So Seema, do an intro.
Happy to be the adult in the room. I love it. You know how you're doing my introduction. You're making me feel so old, but happy to be the adult in the room, guys.
Okay, so here's the golden thread for this whole episode. For about 2 years, the gap in enterprise AI hasn't really been, around about the model being clever. The models have been clever for quite a while now, and the gap has been, can it really sustain a long piece of work without falling over, as you just mentioned? And can it run safely enough to actually trust it when you put it into production?
So Fable 5 plus AI Foundry is Microsoft and Anthropic going after both halves to make it perfect for everyone. The model handles the sustain the work half, and that's the Anthropic side, and Foundry handles the run it safe half.
Which is exactly the order our businesses are experiencing today. So the capability gets you excited. The governance is what actually lets you ship. Hold the thought, because that's the whole story.
Yeah, okay. So look, Ty, you know a little bit about this model now. So what is genuinely different about Fable 5 versus, yet another version uplift?
Okay, so I suppose the headline is the capability is autonomy on a long horizon of tasks. Okay, so Fable 5 is designed for long running, multi stage, and asynchronous tasks. They called out a complex code refactoring, deep research synthetics, and document heavy workloads. And guess what? The mechanism behind that is the interesting bit. It can plan its approach, check its progress against goals, and refine its work as it goes by. So instead of just sitting there and waiting for your next instruction, it's amazing.
And can I jump in? Because
Sure.
that checks its own progress line is the one that matters on the ground. The reason teams stop trusting agents with big jobs is they drift, get 3 steps in, lose the plot, and confidently hand you something wrong. Self-correction mid-task is the difference between cute and I'll actually delegate this.
And that's exactly right. I mean, the second thing what I'm going to flag to everybody and you guys as well is the version. Fable 5's got improved version capabilities. It's not in the it can tell that's a cat sense. The blog that we've been reading and looking at is framing that it doesn't just read the words on a page, but it adds context, interprets them with meaning carried by charts, schematics, dense tables, PDF diagrams, etc., etc.
Yeah, and I guess that all sounds a little bit abstract, right, Ty, until you think about where the important numbers actually live.
And actually, that's the point. The critical context in a financial filing or an architectural document is often in an exhibit or appendices or something like that. The table, the charts, the schematics, and it's just not there to see or process or anything like that. So a model that can reason over doing that and looking at that work today, it means that it doesn't have to be a human doing it manually.
Absolutely. And finance, legal, analytics, architecture, those are the four the announcement names, and they're named for a reason, right? They are document heavy, they are high stakes, and they're exactly where a person currently spends an afternoon reading and whole appendix, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting, I guess. So look, I guess before we move on, Ty, can you pick out a golden nugget for this first section of what we've been talking about, Fable?
Absolutely. So the upgrade itself isn't just smart answers. It's a sustained, self-correcting work over hours and multiple documents. And that's the real difference between previous models that couldn't hold it together.
And
So why don't we look at how we run on the platform, and it's not just APIs. So Seema, do you want to kick us off?
absolutely. And this is where I want to push us, right? Because here's the trap I see customers fall into all the time, right? They go, great, powerful model, give me the API key, they're off. And then 6 weeks later, they're stuck.
Yeah, what do you think they might be stuck on specifically, Seema?
On everything that is in the model. Model was fantastic, right? But how do I ground it in or our actual data? How do I prove it to my risk team it's behaving? How do I see what it's going to cost me? A raw model is a starting line. It's not the finish line, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's the commercial argument for Foundry in one breath there, Seema. It's a great line from Jay Parekh. He's the guy that runs the core AI at Microsoft. And the announcement quotes him saying that winners won't be those with the most demos, but those that turn AI into a governed, continuously improved system for running actual real work. That's the whole pitch. Demos are free. Governed production is where you're going to build that moat in business, right, Seema?
Exactly.
Absolutely, guys. And do you know what? Technically, that's what Foundry is. It's not a model endpoint with a nice logo or anything like that. The model sits inside the platform, and the Foundry agent service is the runtime that orchestrates tool calls and manages the conversations. And then the Foundry control plane is where you actually operate the thing. Magic.
Define operate for me, though, because that word does a lot of hiding.
Yeah, that's a good comment. So control plane is a single management surface across all your agents and models. Okay. Keyword there is all. It tracks the stuff that's been almost impossible to see for agents. So that's task adherence, groundedness, error rate, sensitive data leakage, even exposure to prompt injection attacks. And it plugs into Microsoft security stack, which you already run and love. So Defender, Purview, and Entra.
Oh, it's great to hear that kind of stuff, right, Ty? And I guess that's commercially huge in and of itself. So it tracks token usage, any cost anomalies across the whole fleet of agents. Because if you think about it, the flip side of autonomous agent doing hours of work is autonomous agent, quietly burning tokens for hours. And if you're going to have that, you really need to see that, right?
Yeah. And on that grounding piece, right? This is where Microsoft IQ comes in, right? Really handy. That's the layer that connects the agents to your context. The announcement says Fable 5 combined with Microsoft IQ can reason over your team, your knowledge, and your data across Power BI, your applications, and the web. So it's not reasoning in a vacuum, right? It's reasoning over your whole organization.
Absolutely. So if we're picking out a golden nugget for this little section, I want you to imagine that the model is actually the car engine. All right, the control plane, the agent services, and Microsoft IQ, which we've done videos on in the past, are the chassis, the dashboard, and the fuel line. Okay, so in real terms, you don't put a race engine on a skateboard. All right. So what we're going to do next, guys, is move on to part 3, which is the commercials, pricing, procurement, and consumption. So, John, why don't
Yeah.
you kick us off on this one?
Well, yeah, look, this is my favorite bit, like getting into the commercials and understanding it. Let's talk money, because this is really where it's going to get very real for every business leader, right, Seema?
Absolutely. Go on, tell me the number.
Okay, look, so looking at Claude Fable 5 in Foundry, published pricing is around $10 per million input tokens. We got $50 per million output tokens. So output is the expensive side, okay, which tells you something about how you're going to be able to use it. You don't point the frontier model at trivial high volume tasks. You point it at the hard, high value ones where the output is going to be worth that $50 for a million tokens, okay?
Absolutely, John. And that's where Foundry is really, really special because it's a multi-model catalog. It's not a single model like some of the other, some of our competitors out there or what other people are doing. So what you need to remember is Foundry, Microsoft Foundry has got something like 11,000 plus models in there as of today. So that's OpenAI, it's Anthropic, it's Google, it's even our Maya family and open source. Okay, so the architecture pattern is to, in real terms, route hard reasoning to Fable 5, and then maybe simpler, cheaper ones and high volume stuff with can go to some of the smaller and faster and quicker models.
Yeah, which look, that's the cost control story in a sentence, Ty. Pick the right model for the right task at the right price. And like you say, AI Foundry is all on one platform.
And the procurement angle is the one that quietly wins deals, right, guys? Normally, adopting a new AI vendor means a separate contract, a separate bill, a separate security review, weeks or months of overhead. But with this, you can do it in a single way, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like you say, Seema, with this solution with Claude running in Foundry, it's running on your existing Azure agreement, so it's eligible for the Microsoft Azure consumption commitment, which is the MAC, and the usage lands all on your Azure invoice alongside everything else under the same contract. So you've effectively already committed to some Azure spend. This is basically going to be drawing down against it if you've got that MAC. So there's no new agreements to sign, no new vendor on board, and you can just get on with it, right, Ty?
Absolutely. And for the builders out there, you're going to love this. It's a seamless deployment, standard Azure all through Entra. We've got SDKs for Python, TypeScript, and C Sharp. Anthropic actually manages the infrastructure underneath. So, but guys, just be cautious. One thing to check before moving out and going all in is that region availability. So Claude models, which are in Microsoft Foundry, have been rolling out through our global standards but just with specific regions to start with, such as, I don't know, East US 2 and Sweden Central. So please make sure you do your due diligence and make sure that you've got the right availability in your tenant in your region. Seema.
Amazing. And one honest caveat, guys, right? Because we are not an advert, consumption pricing cuts both ways. So the more dispensable these agents become, the more they meter. So you genuinely want that control plane, cost visibility switched on from day one, not bolted on after the first surprising invoice, right? And
Yeah,
for golden nugget, John, what do you think?
yeah, and look, a takeaway from my point of view, the commercial unlock is not just about the model, okay? It's basically that zero new procurement. If you're on Azure, if you're an existing Azure customer, you've got that agreement in place. If it is Mac eligible, even better, one invoice. That's what turns a 6-month evaluation into the same week pilot for me, Seema. What we got
Absolutely.
next?
Safety. So let's talk about part four, which is my favorite topic. So safety and the grown-up version of responsible AI. So can we do safety properly though? Because this is the first question any of our enterprise customers risk team is going to ask, and it deserves a real answer. So Ty, what do you think?
It really does. I mean, this is a really interesting one for me and a really interesting design choice. So if you think of Anthropic, it's shipping Fable 5 with deliberate limits in the genuinely sensitive domains, which clearly it's been thought about on how to implement. So think cybersecurity, for instance, biology, chemistry. There's a broad availability version, but it's capped in how far it'll actually go there, which is great. John, what do you think?
Yeah, look, and also there's a separate gated version because if you recall any announcements about Claude Mythos 5, that is actually out there at the moment for a very small set of selected users. So I think it's the same model under the hood, but Fable has just been governed a lot harder at the minute. And like I say, that Mythos with fewer guardrails is out there for a smaller set of users. And they've got a project actually called Project Glasswing. So look, that's the one for internal defense, using those domain restrictions, as well as using the model with all of those restrictions moved as well. So quite powerful stuff coming out of Anthropic at the moment, of which Fable is the first bit we're seeing.
Absolutely. And that split is the bit I'd actually highlighted to the board. It means most of the frontier capabilities broadly available with a clear safety posture, while the higher risk stuff stays behind a gate. When you're putting AI into a regulated business, which is all our business for some piece or piece of work, clear safety posture isn't a nice to have. It's a thing that gets you a yes from a compliance or a risk team. What do you think,
Yeah, and
Sam?
yeah, I'm going to say, and then on top of that, we've got our own models with our own safeguards. So think Foundry adds its own layer. There's features from Build actually that just happened this month, I think it were, called guided guardrail setup. All right, and the whole way that this works is it walks the developers through a few questions about who uses the agents, what data it can touches, what tools and actions it can take, and then it applies the right controls at the right point. So the user inputs, the tool calls, the tool responses, and you know what it is, the final output as well.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, that's genuinely clever, and as a business feature, it's not just a technical feature, essentially, right, Ty? So, because it really is going to mean that your junior developer doesn't have to be a security expert to kind of ship a reasonably safe agent. The platform is going to make that safe, from the get-go.
I love that. And just to close on that, the golden nugget for this part, my favorite part, safety here is layered, right? So capability limits in the model, plus configurable guardrails and observability in the platform itself, right? Defense in depth, not a single switch.
Absolutely, Seema. So, okay, let's zoom a little bit out at the minute then, Seema. So, let's see we can tie all these threads together. What's the headline now after we've been through all this?
The headline is the center of gravity has moved. For 2 years, the question was, okay, tell me which model is the smartest? That question's it has already become boring, right? Because they're all getting very good. The new question is, whose platform can I actually run this on safely, observably, on a bill I actually could understand, right? Ty, what's your take on this?
Yeah, that's the trick to this announcement. The model news is definitely Fable 5, the autonomy, the version, and that's what's going to get the clicks to this. But actually, the real shift is that it arrives inside the platform that's grounds with Microsoft IQ. And guys, go and look at that on our recordings. It's fantastic. It governs it with the control plane and it builds it through your existing Mac agreement, which is amazing.
Yeah, look, it's like you were saying earlier, Ty, right? It's that engine plus that additional chassis. The engine is the eye catcher. That's the model announcement. The chassis is really what's going to get it out of the garage. And Microsoft bets, as Jay said in that blog article again, and his line was, is that the winners are the ones who turn this into a governed, continuously improving system for real work, not the ones that really have got a really great flashy demo. So it's all about that governance and continuous improvement around the system. And you need that chassis. You need that kind of AI Foundry approach for that, right, Seema?
Absolutely. And just to close off on that, the practical gateway for anyone watching this, don't start by arguing about models. Please don't. Start with one painful, document heavy, multi step workflow in finance or legal or engineering. Ground it, guys. Govern it from day one. Watch the cost and let the agent run it end to end. That's the move.
Yeah,
So, John,
look,
call
absolutely.
to action.
Okay, we're probably coming to an end of this one. So look, that's Claude Fable 5 in Microsoft Foundry, the announcement. The capability, the commercials, and the controls. Look, if your organization has been waiting for the grown-up version of autonomous agents, then this is really a good week for announcements.
And if you found this useful, do hit like and subscribe, and tell us in the comments which workflows you've handed to an autonomous agent first. John, myself, and Seema, we will read through them.
And guys, if your risk team has questions, send them this episode. Please do. Tell them the adult in the room said it was fine.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, right. That's all from us, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. We'd love to stay in chat, but we've got a frontier model to go and delegate our jobs to, right, Type?
Don't give it any ideas, mate.
Cool, cool, cool. Okay, so look, from all of us at AzBytes, keep it cloudy, keep it clever, and we'll catch you all on the next episode. See you soon.
Bye.
Cheers all.